America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker, the president of the Job Creators Network Foundation. And today I have a special guest with us, Jamey Bowers, who is sitting in for Alfredo Ortiz. You all have seen him before. I think I refer to him as our Ed McMahon. So say hello, Jamey.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for having me.
You make such a great Ed McMahon.
That is correct, sir.
Well, Jamey, today we are joined by Chris Rhodes, and Chris is the founding partner of Veebs. Veebs is a value-based shopping app that makes it effortless for people to shop brands based on their values during their regular shopping trips to the store. For 99 cents a month, Veebs customers choose from a set of values, scan the barcodes of products they're considering buying, and the app displays a V score for those products and parent companies. If the V score is high, then the product aligns well to customers' values settings. If it is low, Veebs will suggest alternative products that align better to their values. So that should be interesting. I noticed that there's this whole industry of patriotic, it's like the patriotic industry that seems to be opening up, because we've talked to so many folks who have created like a niche business over the last couple of months. So it should be interesting talking to him.
Yeah, I'll be curious to hear some of his successes and challenges, and I think there's some additional concerns that I kind of have, in that if you get into trying to rate every company, both from a left or a right standpoint, I'd rather just companies stay out of some of this stuff. Just, if you're making a widget, make a good widget. Or provide a good service. Like I don't really understand why companies feel the need to get engaged in politics one way or another if it doesn't have anything to do with their business. So it'll be curious. I think it'll be a good conversation.
Well, having said all that, it is now time for our interview with Chris Rhodes, the founder and CEO of Veebs. And that is spelled Veebs if you're searching for it in the App Store right now. Chris comes to Veebs from a 17-year career in agricultural technology, and he got a start in ag tech by co-founding Precision Biosciences, followed by 8 years at John Deere and 6 years at AGCO Corp, where he pursued tech partnerships and M&A. Along the way, he's been an advisor and investor for a number of ag and tech startups, including satellite imagery company Farm Shots and chemical discovery company Enco. Chris, welcome to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone.
Great, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, tell us about this app, Veebs. What I've noticed, first of all, I went on last night and I downloaded it, so I'm all set up on it. But what I've noticed is there's been this sort of outgrowth of industry in what I guess I'll call the patriotic industry. And we've interviewed quite a few people on our show over the last couple of months who have found these niches that are, the American people seem so hungry for. And so I'm so curious how you came up with what was the inspiration behind it?
Sure. Yeah. So Veebs is the value-based shopping app that makes it effortless for consumers to shop brands based on their values in their regular shopping trips. And so the way that we kind of came up with it, there was no aha moment. It kind of came out of a series of a few conversations between some business folks. And we were noticing a couple of years ago that there were two trends that seem to be affecting the market. The first was over 3/4 of U.S. consumers say that they want to buy based on their values. So it's not just price, it's not just quality. They also want to buy the value story of a company. Over 3/4 of U.S. consumers, based on a Harris poll, said that. The other thing that we noticed, and presumably related, was that companies were increasingly taking hard stands on kind of 50-50 political and social issues. And so what we took away from that as business folks was that there was going to be a wave of people who started changing the way that they bought. And so, we thought, what does that mean? What's going to be the opportunity in that wave of change? And so we started thinking about what the tools were out there to do that kind of purchasing. And, there's the go down a rabbit hole yourself on the internet and spend all your time, digging through what's out there. There's obviously advertising, and more companies are advertising their values. So you can learn through that. There's the news cycle. You can see that companies pop up for something they've done or haven't done, and you can follow and make decisions based on that. And then what we've actually seen more recently is kind of this fourth trend of alternative marketplaces for interest areas. And from our perspective, those are great, and we wish them the best of luck. But we think there are lots of consumers who want to go to their local store and make their purchases there. And so we came up with an app where you keep it in your back pocket. You go to your regular place of shopping and you make a decision right there at the shelf. And that's really what Veebs is, and kind of where the inspiration came from.
I noticed that it's bipartisan. When I was signing up, if my values are conservative and I support veterans, then I clicked those boxes. And if I was more liberal and had other interests, whether it's the LGBTQ plus community, those interests. So you're not just actually catering to one sector; it's everybody.
Yeah, that's correct. So we kind of envision the app more as a positive force, right? It's a discovery tool, a reward tool. You find the companies that match your values, and encourage those companies rather than thinking of it as a tool to punish companies. So we view it as a tool for discovery and reward. And we honestly, we look at it as there's nothing more conservative than providing choice in the marketplace. And so to us, it would be, almost unconservative to not offer the alternatives. I think the other thing that you noticed is you picked conservative and veteran. Those were the things that were most important to you. The fact that you can pick up to 3 value packs means that you can pick kind of a variety. And so, liberal versus conservative is a very clear one. But there are conservatives who are very concerned about climate change. There are liberals who are very focused on veterans. And so it gives you the opportunity to mix and match, be a little bit more nuanced in your decision making, and really understand kind of more deeply what the companies are that you're buying from.
Have you noticed that either the brands themselves, like when you've looked at products, are there more brands on one side of the aisle than the other? And have you noticed with your new registrations of people, do people on the left or people on the right is this more appealing to? I'd just be curious with your own numbers how those kind of shake out.
Yeah, well, I think I'll start with the customer base. We've been really on the market now for a month, and haven't had a ton of marketing campaigns yet to compare ourselves against. And so we've relied over the course of that month more on the news cycle. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen with that is spikes in the different value packs, even inside of 30 days. So we've seen, all 7 of our value packs have been picked first. We see days that are mostly conservative. We see days that are mostly, more on the liberal value packs, and we see it go up and down. So I think, based on this month that we happen to launch, we're seeing, more conservative value packs picked up. But depending on the day, depending on what the news cycle is, we see, different value packs picked up at different rates. In terms of the companies, I think, you see more companies that are expressing these progressive ideals more than the conservative ideals. I think kind of across the board. What we see is the other thing that we see, though, is that the conservative, companies that are expressing conservative ideals are more often likely to not express anything. So you see the ones who just aren't engaging in these 50-50 social and political topics becoming less talkative or expressing their values less or not at all. And so they tend to fall more on the conservative side, where the companies that are expressing a particular point of view tend to fall on the liberal side.
How does your algorithm work when you're assessing a brand? What kind of things are you looking at that kind of say, okay, I'm going to put a tick mark on the left or a tick mark on the right, or how are you kind of developing these ratings?
Yeah, so that was the hard part of creating the app, really, is gathering the data and organizing. It's all unstructured data. The UPC data is unstructured. The data about the companies is unstructured. So the first big challenge we had to overcome was, how do we organize this unstructured data into something that is usable? So on the UPC side, we just had to grab the UPCs and start organizing it, almost by hand, and it took 2 years basically.
Wow.
On the company data side, we're pulling information from their publicly available, financial statements. We're pulling data from press releases, from their charity announcements, their marketing, and we're trying to structure that all of that unstructured information into something that can be fed into a computer algorithm. It's really important for us to be consistent across companies, consistent over time, to demonstrate what these companies are doing over time, not just one point in time. And so structuring that data into the algorithm, is part of the magic of the app. It's not an exact science, though. We think of it more like a credit score, right? So you've got unstructured data, you pull it together in kind of different, it's available in different proportions. Companies are doing one thing much more than another. And so we have to take that into account. And so it's more like a credit score than it is like, adding three numbers together. And we also, if something really urgent in the news comes up, we're going to kind of put that in by hand and make sure that it's represented in the score. So I'd say it's 80% science, 20% art maybe, but that's really the magic. And what we're trying to be with that, in trying to be as consistent as possible across companies, across time, we're trying to make ourselves into the data set about companies that's reliable, right? Like, we are independent. We have a subscription model, so we take no money from any companies. And we want to be sure that we have that consistency in the algorithm across time so that people can trust what we say. And the numbers that they are using for convenience really mean something.
Sure. I'm sure a company like Twitter or X keeps you busy because any given day it could fluctuate quite a bit one way or another.
Yeah, it's Twitter is a service provider, so we're not grading them yet.
Oh, sure. Okay,
I think
gotcha.
the idea of this is scalable kind of to anything that you buy, but right now we're really just focused on what you buy in the grocery store and in the pharmacy, so that we can get our footing with those things that everyone has to buy. Mm-hmm. Not everyone has to buy a Twitter account. Not everybody even has to buy a car, right? But everybody has to buy food and pharmacy type items. So we've started there and want to build our reputation there.
Was there I can't remember now. Was there a Made in America selection?
There is an America First selection.
America
Yes.
First. Okay, that's what I saw. Yeah. I know that just in talking with people, there's a level of frustration sometimes for them. They don't want to buy goods from China, but they don't always know that they're from China. They don't want to support China in any way, but how do you find out? I know online is sort of the abyss in trying to find out. Going into a store, it'd be great to scan it and be like, this is made in China. I don't want to support China.
Yeah. Yeah. And the abyss is where we live at Veebs. We're digging in there all the time, right? The work that our team does is digging through the internet and publicly available information from companies to find out where they source not only the manufacturing of their products, but the raw materials that go into them. So we're scoring America First based on the information that we can find about where the stuff comes from. And it's not as easy as just, looking on the back of it and it says made in China, right? Like some of it might be made in America and they can say made in America or made wherever, but sourcing happens from all over the world. So if America First is what's most important to you when you're buying stuff, you need a tool that can help you identify where stuff was really made and which companies are really making it in the US. And so part of what we do is dig through that abyss of internet rabbit holes and publicly available data to try to consolidate all that into a clear, easy score. So you walk up, you click the barcode, and this was made in America, or no, this was made somewhere else.
I think you could end up being, I guess, with all the sourcing that happens from China. What's that site? Snopes. They kind of give a percentage of it. It's partially true. It's about 60% true. You could say it's about 20% made in America, but it comes from all the pieces are sourced outside.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different laws about how you can claim something is made in a particular country. I mean, some I don't want to get down this rabbit hole, but some countries do it based on weight, right? So if it's 80% weight, then it's made in whatever country. And the U.S. has a few different ways to measure it, and we want to try again. We're trying to be a consistent source of data for our customers, the consumers in the U.S.
Hey folks, Elaine Parker here with Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. In a startling description, the UN food chief warned the world with the words, knocking on famine's door. And he's not alone. Barron's published that a food shortage could be coming even in the US. One farmer, John Boyd Jr., told Fox News that we're going to see empty food shelves in the coming months. That's why getting survival food is more important than ever. Now. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4 Patriots survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed in a family-owned facility in the USA and giving jobs to over 200 Americans. They have delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, listeners of the Main Street Matters podcast will get 10% off their first order at 4patriots.com by using code STREET. Go to 4patriots.com and use code STREET to start your stockpile today.
I understand there's a subscription model here, and that there is an annual fee, but it's less than $1. Is that correct?
It's a monthly fee less than $1. So the annual fee is $11.
All right.
But the reason we do that is because we really want to be viewed as independent, right? Mm-hmm. Like we think of it, it's an immutable law of business that the customer is the person that provides to your top line, right? And so we want to be sure that our customer is clearly the consumer. So we only have one source of revenue, and that's subscription fees. We don't sell data. We keep that private. We don't sell ads. We don't, accept any other kind of funding sourcing from companies. we think the way to be most independent is to charge a subscription fee, but we're trying to make it so it's not even a noticeable fee. It's 99 cents a month when you're buying, however much in groceries, is not a huge number, we don't think. And so we want to keep that kind of independence and make sure that our customers trust the data that they're looking at.
Are you able to track well, you said you've only been on live for what? You said a month?
About a month.
About a month. So are you seeing a pretty good take rate on the subscription then?
Yeah, we have had a free trial code. And so we've had a lot of people take up the free trial code. We're getting, pretty good uptake, even in the face of that free trial code, of subscriptions. People are just going ahead and buying it. We have recently changed it so anyone who signs up automatically gets a free trial. So you get 30 days free just for downloading the app. And so, as we cycle into kind of the end of this month and into the next month, we're going to, the rubber's really going to hit the road on who's kind of changing over to paying for the subscription. So we'll see better than how much people are uptaking it. But we're pretty happy with what we're seeing so far, given, how many free trials are out there after only a month.
That's great. Are you seeing anything different between rural and city, or north and south, east and west? Are you noticing that there's a demographic that seems to be more excited about this or more engaged in this than others?
So that has been the amazing thing. We absolutely expected certain parts of the country to be much more excited about this than others. And I think, you do see a little bit more in Texas, a little bit more in the Southeast, but we have seen people purchase subscriptions in all 50 states. We've seen a lot of uptake in New York State. We've seen a lot of uptake in California. It's honestly, we didn't necessarily expect that to happen in the first month of it being available. And it has been, it's not quite peanut butter, but it is pretty close to peanut butter across the country if you take into account where people live.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I haven't used it yet because I just downloaded it last night. But if you go to the store and you scan a code and it says, you discover it doesn't align with what your values are, does it offer up an alternative product?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can't believe I hadn't brought that up already, because we think that's one of the big value propositions of the app, is that if you put your value packs in, scan a product, and the product that you scan has a low score, Veebs offers some real alternatives. And it's not going to be like you're looking at potato chips, go buy broccoli. It's going to be you're looking at sour cream potato chips from company X, go look at sour cream potato chips from company Y. And you're right there at the shelf. You look 6 inches to the right, and there's the alternative that fits your values better. We really think that's actually a big value of the app. Is
because if I go to the store, I want the product that I'm heading there for,
exactly.
And if I'm not going to leave empty-handed, so I need to find something. Yep. So yes, that kind of completes the circle of this whole process.
And the other value of that alternative is it's amazing how many brands are owned by the same company. Sure. You look at one brand and you for whatever reason that brand doesn't match your values, but what you don't know is the brand right next to it is owned by the same company, and the brand right next to that is owned by the same company. So you gotta being able to uncover who the parent company is for a particular brand and finding alternatives that, the parent company matches your values is a big piece of that as well.
Now, do you, on neutral companies that have said, hey, we're going to focus on whatever we're making and we're not going to jump into these political or social issues, do they get recommended when somebody says, hey, this company has clearly opposite of my values, and you look at alternatives, do you offer, do those people who have remained neutral, do they benefit from that?
They do. Yeah, they do. Those show up. Like I said, what we've seen in companies is that the trend is either to express liberal values, through marketing or whatever, more than express conservative values. So you see the more neutral ones will show up more on the conservative side.
Sure.
So that works a little bit better if you're a conservative user and you're looking for alternatives to a liberal product. You're more likely to get the neutral one. But all that being said, neutral is neutral, and they're going to show up, as an alternative.
I have kind of an interesting story. It's not a shopping story, but it is a shopping story actually. A friend of mine called a store, I won't mention which one, had a question as a clothing store, and had a question, and he immediately got put on hold. And in the hold music, they were saying basically what their policies are on social issues, like we don't, basic stuff like we don't discriminate based on race and all of these things. And so because they were saying it, he thought that was really great because they were proactively saying it. And I thought, so does that mean when you call a company and they don't say it, that you assume that they do discriminate? And I stopped him dead in his tracks because he didn't know how to answer it, but he was attracted to the fact that company proactively put that message out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have talked about this topic a few times, right? What does it really mean for a company to say something neutral like that, right? Where we don't discriminate, we care about the environment, things that in this day and age are neutral. And how do we at Veebs handle that? And so we've had this conversation a few times because, our underlying assumption is that there's virtually no companies who are discriminating at this point. They don't have a mission statement that says we're going to discriminate against a particular race or religion or lifestyle or whatever. Virtually no company is going to say, we are looking forward to destroying the environment, right?
Right. Not if they want to stay in business.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we talk about that, amongst kind of leadership at Veebs a fair amount about kind of what it means and how to handle it. And, really what, in the end, what we're looking for in making scores is more about, public financial documents, public statements that they make, things like that. And if they say something, more neutral than that, it's not really going to move the dial on the score. But you're right. I mean, there are people who hear that and it makes them feel good. But the question is, what is the opposite of that? And I don't know what the answer is, honestly.
Yeah.
Sure. There's a lot of greenwashing out there where, company X might be a giant polluter, but they come out with a press conference or a press statement that talks about how much they love the environment and otherwise. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's challenging for your team to kind of separate fact from fiction. I mean, there's a certain amount of value you can assign to the fact that they want to say X or Y publicly, but it's not always what they're doing.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Companies, what I always say is companies with their kind of marketing and PR, they have a goal that they're trying to accomplish and they know what they're doing. I mean, it's not an accident what they're saying in the public sphere. And usually they're pretty good at having people hear the message they want to hear. And so, yeah, I think there's some risk in that. For the products we're talking about, for the products in the grocery store or the products in the pharmacy, it comes up a little bit less, right? You're not dealing as much with a chemical company or, oil and gas company that might be trying to greenwash something that they're doing, or, their message might not match what their actions are quite as much. So it doesn't come up as much for the products that we're in right now. But it's definitely, as we look ahead to, what does the future hold? Where are we going to go next with our product? I mean, it's something we're going to have to figure out how to deal with more and more often.
Your app could be the solution to stopping cancel culture.
Well, I would love for that to happen. I mean, that is, when we think about the app and we think about how we hope people are using it, like I said, we hope it's a discovery tool. We hope it's a reward tool, but it's also a tool that it allows for nuance, like we just talked about, right? You can kind of decide between a few different types of values. So it allows for nuance. It's not binary. It's not you're in or you're out. And we think that might help lower the temperature a little bit. We also think, it's a private tool, right? So you can go to the store, look at your app, make your decision, and you don't have to shout about it and you don't have to get emotional about it. You are making a decision based on your values, and that's that. It's done. It's private. And when you're using an app like this, you feel empowered, right? You have more knowledge. You feel empowered, like you're able to make a difference. It might be a small difference buying one potato chip over another, but you feel like you're empowered. And empowered people are naturally, maybe a little bit less angry, or I'm not sure exactly the word, but they're a little less. And that that can move us towards hopefully a middle ground, less canceling, kind of, I don't know, more more friendship across the aisle, things like that. That's exactly what we hope happens anyway.
Well, we've got just a couple minutes left. Why don't you tell our listeners what's next for Veebs and how they can download your app?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can, to download the app, you go to the App Store and download it. I mean, we're on Apple, and Android, and it's easy as can be. It does require a subscription, 99 cents a month to get the scores. There's some other information in there if you want it. We're adding products all the time. So we have 300,000 products in the app right now. We're about to make a bump to about 500,000. Customers are sending in new barcodes all the time. We're adding new stores all the time. So that's the key thing, right? We're going to build this foundation so that when you go to the store, every product you scan, has a number associated with it. Then we're looking at, kind of three different areas would be the next step. The first is overseas. We've had unbelievable interest in this from Australia and the UK, a little bit from Europe as well. So we want to explore that. Is that a big opportunity for us? The second area is what we talked about earlier. Potentially, what is the next kind of customer base or product set? So move out of the grocery store into clothing or into hard goods or services.
I have a suggestion for you.
Yeah, love it.
To look at companies who do animal testing.
Yes. I'm going to make a note. That might be our next value pack. So those two areas. And then, the third thing that has come up as we've gone through this journey is, companies have limited resources and they have to spend those resources on, kind of important things. There's price, there's quality, and now there's values. And as we've looked at more and more money going into the values, we've started to look at, where is that costing us? Is the quality going down? Is the price going up? With limited resources, every company has to make decisions. And we think that there may be an opportunity with these codes to kind of look more at what's in the product. What are the chemicals in it? What are the ingredients in it? What difference does that make? And so that may be an area of growth for Veebs as well, as more on the kind of the backstory. Animal testing actually would be a great add to that. So
yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's where we think we're going to go. We've been around 2 years as we built this up. We've been in business a month, and so we're really right now trying to focus on clarity of mission, building that foundation so that we can look at some of these other areas of expansion.
Have you had companies come to you yet and kind of lobby for a better rating on X or Y, or try to tell you why they should be put in one category or another?
No, not yet. We expect that to happen, when there's some sort of critical mass of users.
Sure.
Our feeling on that is if you can provide data that we can use, that's fine. We'll take it into account. If you just don't like your score, we've got our scoring system and it's going to be consistent, and that's that. And all our money comes from the customer. So sorry. So that's how we're going to handle that when it happens.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about Veebs. I think it's fascinating. I also think as I'm sitting here, my brain is clicking. I have so many ideas that people could really benefit from the app. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Happy to come back anytime.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, you can download the program at salempodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. And I also want a special thanks to Jamie for sitting in for Alfredo today.